And, I tried to explain this, and they just, started saying that, like, they know what I am, and, like, shoved me into the street and then, like, all rushed me, 4 people preventing me from getting back up. And, I'm a disabled person. I have a shoulder injury. I can't really fight back. So there's no way that I was ever going to, like, attack or stand up to these people. I was standing there, hands to my chest because I was holding a Zion that I had gotten from a different table. Um, and, he starts screaming that he's going to call the cops, that I assaulted him. So we go up. I see a camera. And my roommate and my comrade, they point out the camera. I go up to the person recording, and, I'm already really upset, and I just start crying because this lady is like, "I saw everything that happened. I filmed everything. If you need the footage, here's my card." Um, but at that point, different Democratic organizers start coming up and telling me that I could just be saying anything, um, which is kind of crazy. They were like, "You could just be, like, saying stuff to, like, sow division or whatever." And I was just, like, really confused and really upset. But once they watched the video and saw that I was straight up just standing there, I didn't touch the guy, I didn't go near the guy, like, I was standing in front of him, and then, like, a lady shoved me. And, once everybody else had seen the video, that's when the guy that was holding the anti-Trump Trump's a communist sign, essentially, that's when he left after once again threatening to call the cops on me, saying that I attacked him.
Introducing Lex. Good to have you.
Hello. Good to see you again.
Yeah, yeah. It's your first time on stream with me here, and it's good to have you. You came from Orlando. You were also part of Real, and you
Mhm.
are trying to expand on that. If you can give us just a little bit about your background first before we get into the situation that happened.
Well, so I'm a communist. I started organizing with Real, I wanna say about, like, maybe, like, 4 or 5 months ago, but because the cost of living in Orlando was impossibly high, even as a dental assistant working in the health profession, I couldn't afford to live there, so I ended up moving to the Midwest in the Quad Cities in Iowa. And with my experience organizing with Real, I wanted to start a similar organization here,
Mhm.
so that we could, build class consciousness, do mutual aid, and, combat the hold that the Democrats have on all organizing in these cities. There's 4 cities here that are kind of grouped into one. That's why it's called the Quad Cities. Um, my background is, I'm a Russian Ukrainian American. My family is from Crimea. My grandmother still lives there. I have family in Moscow and Kiev. And so I'm very affected by, this war, and I have been, since even before 2014.
Mm.
So I've known about it for a very long time as somebody that is directly affected by it, and my family is directly affected by it. Bombs are dropping on my grandmother's city. You know, so that's part of why the incident that we're going to talk about happened, is because, I'm somebody that's directly affected by this conflict, and Democrats refuse to listen to people that are actually affected by it, instead listening to, the mass media and, like, what politicians say as opposed to people on the ground.
So you are one of those uh, ethnic Russian speaking Ukrainians that really were the victims of what was happening back in 2014. I mean, your people in your family
Yeah,
were
my grandma voted
who that
in the
happened to.
referendum.
And so you're seeing it from really the anecdotal side. Um, and if, I think this is why this is so important, because a lot of times we talk about how what has happened in Ukraine as far as between what happened with Vladimir Putin and as far as Volodymyr Zelensky, the war that has started back in January, I think it was February 2022.
Yep.
But people don't realize that this is actually goes back even further. About four, if I'm correct, there's 14,000 ethnic speaking, Russian speaking Ukrainians that were murdered in, I think it was the Donbass region.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have a lot more intimate knowledge about that than I do. So this goes into basically that territory.
It does, yeah. I mean, like I said, it was the Democrats, so they were clearly all pro-Ukraine, but refused to listen to somebody that my family is Ukrainian, my family is Russian, my family are Russian-speaking Ukrainians from Crimea, and, they refused to listen to and as soon as they found out that I was not, like, pro-Zelensky, they completely dismissed all of my concerns and essentially did nothing.
Wow. This sounds similar to, kind of similar to how a lot of Jewish people who are anti-Zionist have rejected Zionism, and now how they are essentially, being disowned by their family who may be Zionist for rejecting the genocide, well, really the Holocaust that Israel is committing against the Palestinians.
And part of the hostility, I think, started because I was wearing a keffiyeh, so,
Mm.
I think that they immediately saw me as an outsider. I mean, the organization, One Human Family here, is a Zionist organization, so it makes sense why they would not wanna protect me in any way, um, despite the fact that, I was I mean, it was basically an attempted murder what they did. I was shoved into the street, prevented from getting back up, and it's one of the busiest streets in the city. And like they straight up because I said, Trump's not a Russian asset. That was a reason to try and kill somebody, essentially.
So let's get into this because I would like to recount what exactly you have went through. Um, because reading exactly what happened is one thing, but it's more impactful coming straight from you. So how did this all start? You said that basically you were telling people the fact that Trump is not a Russian asset, and so of course liberals and Democrats, they're propagandizing, they're thinking that anything having to do with Russia is completely evil, so therefore um, they're going to be adversarial to anybody who claims otherwise. So
Yeah.
if you can start off with that, please.
Well, so ironically, I was sitting in the audience when they started doing the chicken dance as some sort of protest against
Okay,
Trump.
we got.
Um,
we,
and
I was hoping you get to this part because even though what you went through is bad, it's harrowing, it's jarring, which I fully agree. This part right here just it sent me for a loop because when you showed me this, I was speechless at how absurd the
yeah,
Democrats really are. I'm going to show you
they
guys
were
this.
writing letters to
This
Joe
is what they were
Biden.
doing. This is what they consider to be part of their activism.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, no, that was like they're like "F you to Trump," essentially. They also wrote letters to Joe Biden. Um, yeah, yeah, they wrote letters to Joe Biden, and other Democratic, like, elected people, as well as they wrote, like, hate letters and stuff. I don't know, it was super bizarre. I wasn't actually planning on going until I saw that there was a Palestinian organization here that was going, and, I wanted to show up in support of, Palestinians. But when I got there, I saw a guy like, during the chicken dance is kinda when I started looking around because I was like, "What is this? This is crazy," and I see this guy holding a sign that, says, "Send him back, Trump returned to sender," and it has, like, a hammer and sickle and, like, a pointed hand towards the hammer and sickle implying, Trump's some sort of communist, which I was like, as somebody whose family's from the Soviet Union, I was like, "What?" Like, as a communist, as somebody whose family's from the Soviet Union, I was really shocked and really confused, and so, like, I went up to this guy, and I started talking to him, and, I was like, "So, what does your sign mean? Can you explain to me why you think that he's a communist?" And they, started saying basic, like, liberal, like, BS about, like, Trump not sending aid to Ukraine anymore. Um, and like I just found the imagery very offensive and really upsetting because, we all know Trump's not a communist. He's not a Russian asset, he's sending things to Ukraine. Um, he withheld aid and then they signed the mineral deal and then they immediately started sending aid again. So it was clearly just a ploy to get the minerals that are in the Donbass region. Um, and knowing all of this, I tried to like explain to him because like I generally think that if I can educate or reach people, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna speak up and I'm going to talk to them and try to see where they're coming from because maybe like he has a misunderstanding, but the second I started saying anything that was contradictory to what they believed, he started saying like, I know what you are, get the fuck out of my face. um and like in the video you can see me in the red in the keffiyeh and him like putting his hands around my face. I was standing a comfortable distance away from him. He kept telling me to leave. Another woman ended up overhearing it, and when I said the words Trump's not a Russian asset, she was like, I'm a woman and I have no problem doing this to you. And then she shoved me into the busy street. They were lined up along the street, um, holding these signs, these really ridiculous signs, Um, and I was just trying to explain. And he asked if I was gay. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, well, they hate gay people in Russia. And I was like, well, they hate gay people in Ukraine too. That's just like an Eastern European thing that like the Communist Party never really dealt with. So like that's really not the gotcha that they think it is. Like I was more visibly queer when I was younger. And so I've been there with like colorful hair, with like very queer outfits and stuff. And I've never really gotten attacked or yelled at in any way. I wasn't really in like Moscow or anything or protesting. I was just kind of existing. And people respected me in the same way they would anybody else. It wasn't like uniquely aggressive. I'd argue I've had more hate crimes done against me in Florida than I ever did in Russia or Ukraine. Um, so then he started saying that I needed like if I cared so much I should go back there and like fight. And I was like, well, you know, I'm I'm an American citizen. I was born here. My family is there, and like the only reason my family ever came here was because of the collapse. Um, and that's why I was born here. Like, I would rather communism and socialism still exist in the USSR, and like I would rather be there, but I'm not because of American imperialism and the way that they like shut down the country and like destroyed it and illegally dissolved it. He also kept saying like who invaded who, and I was like, well, it didn't start in 2022, and he just kept like screaming in my face who invaded who, and I was like, it didn't start in 2022, like it didn't even start in 2014, it started way before then. um there was a lot of like during the Maidan, the Euromaidan, they took off a like more pro-Russia president and put in a more anti-Russia president. Um, and I tried to explain this, and they just started saying that like they know what I am, and like shoved me into the street and then like all rushed me, four people preventing me from getting back up. And I'm a disabled person. I have a shoulder injury. I can't really fight back. So there's no way that I was ever going to like attack or stand up to these people. I was standing there, hands to my chest because I was holding a Zion that I had gotten from a different table. Um, and, he starts screaming that he's going to call the cops, that I assaulted him. So we go up, I see a camera. And my roommate and my comrade, they point out the camera. I go up to the person recording, and I'm already really upset, and I just start crying because this lady is like, I saw everything that happened, I filmed everything, if you need the footage, here's my card. um, but she at that point, different democratic organizers start coming up and telling me that I could just be saying anything, um, which is kind of crazy. They were like, you could just be like saying stuff to like sow division or whatever. And I was just like really confused and really upset. But once they watched the video and saw that I was straight up just standing there, I didn't touch the guy, I didn't go near the guy. Like I was standing in front of him, and then like a lady shoved me. And, once everybody else had seen the video, that's when the guy that was holding the anti Trump Trump's a communist sign, essentially. That's when he left after once again threatening to call the cops on me, saying that I attacked him. At some point, I got like kind of shoved into him and I brushed up against his arm, which he then started screaming in my face more until the video showed that I was attacked by them. But they continued to scream and shout at me, saying, like, I know what you are, I know who you are, like, essentially implying I'm some sort of Russian asset when, like, in reality, I just am a person who's directly affected by this conflict and has been for years. I mean, my babushka, she still lives in Crimea. She lives in Sevastopol, and like there's straight up bombs being dropped on the place where my grandfather used to work. You know, close to the apartment, like not where civilians live, but like within like a mile or so. You know, she's hiding from bombs and all of this. And so I tried to explain all of this to these people, and they just were like, not they just kept telling me to call the cops, and I've had trauma with the cops. I don't like the cops as a communist, not a big fan of them, so I was like, "Can we just ask these people to leave?" Like, all I was requesting was for the organizers of the event to get these people out of there. You know, I wasn't even trying to get these people in trouble, I wasn't trying to get these people arrested, I just wanted them, you know, if people that are protesting in the name of your organization are attacking other protesters or other activists, then, you know, they should be requested to leave.
Yeah, they're a
And they
liability.
continued to refuse that.
Yeah.
Um, which honestly was super mind-boggling, and, like, they kept shuffling me from one organizer to another, me explaining what happened, them realizing that I was, like, even remotely anti-Zelensky, anti, you know, the current regime in Ukraine, and I kept explaining, "I'm not, like, pro-Putin, I'm not, like, any of that. I'm pro the people that live there." You know, I listen to the people that live there, I listen to my family, I listen to my neighbors there, and that's how I get my information, you know? I'm in a bunch of different Telegram groups that track the kidnapping of Ukrainian men into the military. I follow all of this stuff really closely because, you know, it's my people. And they just, you know, they just kept screaming at me. They kept ignoring my request to ask these people to leave. Then when when oh god, when um one of these organizers went up to the woman that actually shoved me. The only reason they asked her to leave was because she started being aggressive with him. So her attacking me was not enough to ask her to leave, but a indivisible organizer going up to her and her sort of just like being a little bit combative with him, not even like physically, just like verbally, was enough to ask her to leave. But the other woman that prevented me from getting up, she said that she was trying to de-escalate the situation, and I don't know about you, but sh crowding around somebody that got just shoved into the street and preventing them from getting back up onto the sidewalk is in no way de-escalation at all. Like, that's not de-escalating. Going in defense of the person that got attacked, that's de-escalating. Telling those people to leave, that's de-escalating. But they didn't do any of that. Instead, they just the lady that the lady that was on the stage while doing the chicken dance, she actually went and what they did was they went and made an announcement and they said, "Hey, people on the street, don't put your hands on each other." And that's it. Like that was their way of dealing with the situation, not telling these people to leave. The man left of his own accord after he realized that everybody saw that I didn't touch him, I didn't do anything. And the woman left after she was being aggressive with a Democratic organizer. And all these people just kept telling me that like I could just be saying stuff. The actual organizers of the event refused to watch the video. They just kept saying that I could be saying stuff and that like essentially implying that I kind of deserved it. Which like, you know, I was just like really incredibly upset. They just would not address the situation. And when we talked to the lady that had filmed it on WQAD, she then told us that she couldn't release the video to us because her manager had said we needed to get a subpoena, um, which is absurd. You know, like that's crazy. They won't provide the evidence of my attack because they don't
No.
want yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Like they filmed everything right up to the point, basically. They show this guy like shoving his hand in my face, telling me to get the fuck out of there. And then they cut off the video. But they still show me in the background, him getting aggressive with me while I'm straight up just standing there, hands to my chest.
Okay,
And
can
it,
we
it
can
was
we
just
take a look at that really quick?
yeah, yeah. I sent you
Okay.
the link.
Yeah, I have it here.
Okay, yeah.
Let's get into. Oh,
Independence. Quad Cities 50th July anymore, but Quad citizens are still celebrating independence. Quad Cities 5051 holding a Stand Up for Freedom party. Emma Bucher shows how they celebrate and the purpose behind it all.
They're going to prove that joy is a form of resistance. They don't want us to be happy. Too bad.
Over 100 people gathering on Breedy Street July 5th, waving signs and speaking out against state politicians.
okay.
Quad citizens are still
Oh,
celebrating independence. Quad
sorry.
Cities 50.
Happy? Too bad.
Over 100 people gathering on Breedy Street July 5th,
I think I
waving
saw you.
signs and speaking out against state
Okay.
politicians.
Okay, so you're right here, right?
Yep,
Yes.
yeah, that's me.
Okay, and the guy with the white hat. So you guys see where it says "Keep the immigrants, deport the racists." She's right behind that person.
They.
Okay. All right. So keep your eye on this one right here.
And President Trump while still celebrating American independence.
We're going to make our voices heard. We are here with a purpose. We are here for camaraderie, community. You are not alone in this fight.
Much of the protest focusing on President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill Act, passing the House and Senate earlier this week. Opponents say the bill will cause sweeping cuts to Medicaid and SNAP programs.
A lot of people are going to lose their lives with the cutting off of Medicaid for people. It's tragic that's happened.
Visitors invited to write notes to be delivered to Senators Joni Ernst and Chuck Grassley and Representative Marionette Miller Meeks.
Our legislators need to hear from, the people that put them in office, us, the people that elected them. And whether it's writing letters or making a phone call or going and knocking on their door and talking to their staff.
Organizers say they plan on delivering those notes.
First of all, hang on. I just want to say something about what that lady said. I'm sick and tired of call your congressperson. That actually worked out.
No, they had people that were running for office, like come and speak, and none of them said anything serious. None of them said anything. Like they just, it was just liberal talking points again and again. There was no like serious conversation about what is to be done. I mean, they said that like joy was like a form of resistance, which in my opinion is absurd because joy is not a form of resistance. That is straight up just, you know, like anger is a form of resistance. Doing something is a form of resistance. Speaking up is a form of resistance, but like doing the chicken dance and being happy and like dancing around on the street with an American flag, that's not resistance in any way. Writing letters to Joe Biden, the guy that like spent his entire career lobbying for Israel and, set up all the conditions for October 7th to happen and for the genocide and the Holocaust that's happening in Gaza to like continue, that's not resistance.
Yeah, exactly. And as we can see here, I mean, they're basically just having this belief that all we have to do is just stay within the system and we could actually change things. But then once somebody actually is about really changing the system, then they see that person as as an absolute threat. When in reality, you're actually working to really change the system in its totality. And
Yeah.
so, yeah.
I mean, we started once I moved here, I basically immediately started organizing because there was nothing except for these like democratic organizations like One Human Family, which is Zionist, or um, Indivisible, which is just Democrats, or there's a couple of like DSA stuff, but they also support Zionists, so like you know, um, I immediately started organizing. I started with, making sandwiches and reaching out to the homeless population because in Iowa and Illinois. I'm right on the border. They closed down all of the homeless shelters and then expected private equity to come in and house these people, which why would private equity ever try to house homeless people? That doesn't make sense to me. There's no profit to be made in that. So I started, doing what I saw Real doing. I started with food. They were on your stream, I believe, a couple of months ago, talking about how they started, and I took that information and started applying it to here. We started with food. I started with making jam, but we made jam together. Remember, at the Revolutionary Groundings event. So I took what I learned from Real and I started applying it here. I started making jam from local fruits that I found on the trees and bushes, and distributing it to the community. We've moved on to like meat sandwiches and stuff, as well as first aid kits too, because there was a lot of these homeless people, they end up going, the cops basically chase them out of the city into the woods. So they end up getting a lot of injuries. So one of the things that we wanted to prioritize was giving them antibiotic cream, giving them band-aids, giving them, alcohol pads, and we had a lot of requests for Tylenol as well. So we started with that as well as food, because on Sundays here, they all of the food ways that people can get food are just like gone. And also a lot of these people aren't very mobile. They are disabled, they have injuries. I was looking at census data, and the majority of the homeless population here is disabled. So there's no way that they're going to be able to walk to a food bank. There's no way that they're going to be able to cook raw beans or anything, because they have nothing. They're like sleeping on tarps in the grass, and then the cops are going around, and we're getting told that the cops are harassing them, throwing away their stuff, going as far as beating them up as well. Like it's very hostile to be homeless here. We see people in wheelchairs that just that straight up have nowhere to go. And it's really scary out here for these people. Actually, one of the men that we met, his name was Jeff. He actually ended up passing away about 9 days ago. We heard. I've been looking for him. Um, and I had brought some stuff specifically that he had requested, and when I had spoken to another woman, I believe her name was Sonia, she let me know that he had passed away, but that she had heard about our organization from him. So our name is already, in the 3 weeks that I've been here, is already getting around. People are already knowing who we are, what we're doing, and a lot of them talk to the lack of education here, the lack of, political education in particular, how there is no understanding of, they're not using these terms, but they're implying that there's no understanding of the material conditions. There's no care for these people. They see them as a surplus population that, needs to be essentially exterminated because they want to beautify the city. There's so many empty houses here. Like, I'm not even kidding. You walk down any of the like main roads, there's empty buildings. There's places where these people could stay. A lot of these people congregate around one empty house that is just boarded up, and they like stay on the stoop, and like that's where we find them. But the city isn't doing anything about it. They are kicking people off of the lawn, and it just, it's horrible. It's really horrible hearing about like the experience of these people. And every time that I'm out there handing out food, they are so grateful, and I feel like I'm doing nothing. I'm giving them a PB&J or like a ham and cheese sandwich with like lettuce and tomato and mayo. I'm not doing all that much, but that's more than they've ever gotten from anybody else, which is crazy to me. I'm doing a lot of this out of my own pocket. I'm doing a lot of it out of, like we're not getting any donations. We're just people that are coming together to do this ourselves because nobody else is doing it, and these people are straight up dying on the streets. Another woman was telling, I believe her name was Mary. She was telling me about how last year, um, one of her friends ended up hanging himself, and they had to cut him down themselves because the police would not come and take away the body. She told us that a month ago, a homeless man ended up um, laying down on the tracks and killing himself. So like these people, they don't care about them. They don't see them as real human beings, and they don't see them as deserving of help or deserving of a place to live or basic human dignity of food. Um, and if I have anything to give, if I have any skills, the jam, like that's basically almost free because I'm just picking stuff off of the trees. And it just, you know, I'm gonna do what I can. Oh, and our we have a website. It's peoplesrevolutionaryleague.org or qcpeopleskitchen.com. They both link to the same site. At the top, if anybody is in the Iowa, Illinois, Quad City area, please submit a volunteer form. We are looking for people. If you know anybody around this area, please, come and give us some help, some hands, anything helps. I mean, heck, even talking to these people, like a lot of them just have nobody to talk to that's going to listen to them. People dismiss them right off the bat. And here I am typing it out for you, but it's really upsetting watching all of these Democrats do the chicken dance when they can't even have the basic human dignity to give somebody a sandwich, They're collecting all of these donations and they're writing all of these letters and doing nothing for the people that actually live here. Instead, they are trying to kill activists for speaking up, for talking to their own experience, and it is just it's really upsetting and it's really distressing watching these people like just do nothing and then yell and try to kill people that are actually doing something. Because I can guarantee you, none of these people have ever talked to a homeless person as if they're a real human being. They see them as an eyesore. They want to beautify the city by getting rid of them, which just means killing them or running them off into the woods where they can die on their own. um, we find people that can't even walk to our cars, so we bring them the sandwiches, we bring them the food, we bring them the first aid kits, and we are getting requests from community members for duffel bags or for sleeping bags. That way they're not sleeping on just straight up a tarp. We've been distributing, because of the heat wave that I mentioned before we started the stream. I've been distributing, those like towels that you get wet and then you kind of like flick them a little bit and they help cool you down. um, that was really useful in Florida, and these people have never really experienced a heat wave like this. So I have been distributing that as well with my comrades, and also ponchos, because a lot of their stuff is getting wet from this like unseasonable rain that we've been having.
Yeah.
Um, and it is just, I mean, it's just crazy to me that like they straight up don't see these people as human beings that are deserving of help or deserving of anything other than like being beat up and attacked by cops. It just, I don't know. I can talk about this for hours because like I hear so many stories every single week that I'm out. And I feel like I'm not doing much, but I'm doing more than anybody else has ever done for these people. And that is, crazy to me because I'm just giving out like, I don't know, like 50 sandwiches basically. We often give people multiple because that way they have something to eat later in the day. Because on Sundays and Saturdays there's just no food distribution at all,
Wow.
for people.
Wow. Yeah. So this is the your recounting of what happened.
Hmm.
Um, that happened, between you and Democratic rally goers. This is the
That's the
gentleman
signs.
that attacked you. In fact, it's in large. It says Trump returned to sender with the hammer and sickle.
I was like, what?
Yeah, he obviously has no idea what communism really is.
No, none of them do. And I was looking at their old rallies too from before I moved here, and like they straight up have like Trump is a communist. And I'm like, what? Trump is what?
Yeah,
Um, that's the woman that prevented me from getting up on the sidewalk. And they say they're anti-fascist and then they're holding the flag of a fascist nation, of an imperialist settler colony. Like,
yeah, with a rainbow flag in their background, as
and
if they
telling gay people to
care
go back
about
to Russia
queer people
because
who are Ukrainian, or if they as if they're probably on the side of Israel, who they care. They say they care about LGBTQ people, but what about the LGBTQ Palestinians that are being bombed right now? Like they don't give a shit about them,
that are being
you
shot,
know.
like
Or
that are being genocided and killed.
and I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, probably half of those people, and I'm making an assumption here, but and this is purely my assumption, but some of these people probably look at somebody like me and they probably wouldn't even want me in their neighborhood because they probably think I'm gonna steal some shit.
No,
And
yeah, and
without actually really getting to know me, these look like a bunch of Karens that really just do not give a shit about people who are marginalized, especially those of people like myself and you who are part of the LGBTQ community, who are actually doing what we can to actually help our neighbors. And it just goes to show that it's like, okay, says Grand Tifa, grandmothers resisting fascist oligarchs. My question is, what about the fascist oligarchs that were also contributing to Joe Biden and his campaign as well? I'm not saying that fascist oligarchs don't contribute to Trump. They do, but the same ones that contribute to Trump also contribute to Joe Biden. So my thing is that she is being completely hypocritical by wearing that shirt and saying that she's against fascism while she's still in a party that's committing fascism, aka a
They're
21st century
supporting it.
Holocaust within the within Palestine.
Yeah,
And then
no,
on
I
top
mean
of
these
that, what about
people.
what's going on to the 21st? The horrible things that's happening to those of us who are marginalized here, especially the Black community, and they're sitting there standing by Joe Biden when he authored the '94 crime bill, and they're
Yeah.
standing by him. It
I mean,
just it's
he was
asinine.
brought into Congress by a Klansman. Like, you know, like I'm sorry, but like these people aren't serious about change. They're serious about preserving the status quo. They're serious about maintaining our current system that they are benefiting from as, white people that are like, they just don't care. And honestly, at the rally, the demographics here are a lot more white. I mean, I'm not in the South anymore, so I wasn't expecting this many white people. But, there's so many. I'm not even kidding. I think there was, like, maybe 5 Black people at the entire event. And they were there with an immigrant organization, that was there, and, like, that's it, like, that's the people, and the rest of them were just, like, old white ladies and old white guys, and a bunch of veterans too, and I was like, "I'm sorry, but, like, we're supporting war criminals that, like, went to other countries and killed a bunch of kids and, like, like, why are you guys propping up Obama and Biden as, like, the paragons of, progressive democracy? Because, I mean, Obama bombed weddings, Obama bombed children, like, drone strikes and all of that, and yet, because it's not Trump, and, like, these people weren't doing anything before Trump got elected. They were just sitting at home, going to brunch, they were not doing anything serious. They just want Trump out. That's what they keep saying. They're like, "Trump's the most important thing," and I'm like, "No, destruction of the American system, the imperialist system that is supporting all of this. That's the most important thing, because until we do that, we can't tackle anything else, Racism is implicit to the system that we live in, and until the system is destroyed, you can't say, like, they were saying stuff like, we can't be free until we all are like, nobody's free until we all are free, and I'm like, you're being so, 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 so hypocritical, because the only way to free people is to destroy the capitalist system that we live in. And yet, all they wanna do is preserve it. All they wanna do is write love letters to Joe Biden, like, and do the chicken dance, like, that's not serious. It's God, it was so crazy to witness, like, it was so crazy to witness the chicken dance. I straight up was like, "What? Where am I? Like, what?" Like, I thought Florida was bad. I thought Florida was bad, but then, like, these people are so much worse, and, like, at least in Florida, like, people have an understanding, like, of somewhat of the material conditions, because we have a very, like, class, stratified and race stratified society. Like, I lived in Oviedo, and, at one side of Oviedo, there's McMansions filled with white people, at the other side, there's mobile homes filled with Black and brown people, like, you know? Um, and it was just completely insane and mind-boggling that they seriously thought doing the chicken dance was gonna do anything, that, having, like, a choir of teenage girls singing. I don't remember, I was, like, already attacked at this point, but, like, they had a choir singing while I was, like, crying in the corner trying to get somebody to take me seriously and ask these people to leave, um, and, like, they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything, you know? And, like, the question, apart from wanting Trump to stand down, what were the demands of these so-called protesters? I don't know, because they had no demands. Their demands were just, "We hate Trump, we want Trump gone," and that was it. They had
I'm gonna
no
be
actual actionable actions that like you should be taking, or that they wanted to be done, or that they wanted to be seen. It was just support the Democrats, write letters to Joe Biden, reach out to your senators. Like after October 7th, I was constantly emailing Florida senators and stuff, and like nothing happened. Nothing
Yeah.
happened. It's still happening. It's getting worse by the day. And these people, they just want the system to continue because they're benefiting from it, and they don't care about thinking any further about it, and they just want to feel good about standing up and saying like BS, like complete BS. It's all about their own feelings. It's not about actually like material change or justice for anybody at all.
Yeah. In fact, okay, I'm gonna make I'm gonna make a judgmental statement. So, if people have daggers for me, it is what it is. But doing the chicken dance at a Democrat rally to try to force change, to me, is the lamest shit I've ever heard of.
It
Like
was
you
so
wouldn't even
lame.
like the fact that it's not just ineffectual, but it is lame.
They
My
also
thing is
had
like,
a blow up
y'all could have did
chicken.
like their slide or something like that. I mean, you make it, if it's gonna be ineffectual, at least to make it fun and ineffectual. Why not gonna do some lame ass chicken dance?
And they had a blow up of a chicken with like a Trump, like the Trump wig, the yellow. People were
No,
taking pictures next to it. Yes, I'm so
no.
serious. Like it was bizarre. Let me see if I can find it, because like it was
All
crazy.
right,
It
I'll
was
leave myself.
crazy.
That's it. That's it.
That's what Democrats are doing. They're like, they're not doing anything at all. They're taking pictures next to chicken dances. Let me see if I can find it, because like it was straight up, and all of the signs were just like, they were just like, I'm an American veteran and I hate Trump, and I'm like, okay, well,
It's
you're a
like,
war
well,
criminal.
get in line. But the thing is, like, what are you doing for the actual people on the ground in order to change things, that in
Nothing.
order to build dual power, in order to circumvent this system so that we can actually build class solidarity? And my question is, okay, yeah, Trump is bad. So are you guys actually reaching out to people who are workers like you in order to be able to get them to wake up? But that also means calling out the party that you are in team with as well. That means leaving both parties and seeing them for what they really are. It's just co-workers under the same boss. That's
Yeah,
really all it is.
exactly. They're funded by the same people.
Yeah, it's like, why in the hell would I go to a restaurant that has the KFC and Pizza Hut attached to each other, and then I go through the door, and then I don't like the person who's serving me KFC, so I go to the other side of the counter to get to the person who's selling Pizza Hut, and and then I'm like still mad that I'm getting served terribly by either or, when in reality they're both working at the same restaurant for the same boss.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like they're being paid by the same people. They're funding the same genocide. Like I said, Joe Biden, his entire career is marked by support of Israel.
Yeah.
That's like all he's done his whole career, and yet they want to write love letters to him. They want to write
Oh
love
my
letters to the guy that like,
god.
you know, the second link that I sent you, that's the it's you see the blow up chicken?
What in the hell?
That's their activism. That's their meaningful change. Like, oh my God, it was so bizarre and so mind-boggling to me. Like, I I don't even like you're seeing it. Like, imagine seeing this in person and having these people tell you that like it doesn't matter that you like nearly got killed because you're a Russian asset or something. Like, and yet this is what they're doing. Like, you're an American asset. You're an asset for the imperial system that we live under. You're not doing anything serious. You're not like I'm betting you that for this rally they chased homeless people away from the block that they were doing it on. Like, I'm betting you that happened, without, like, actually providing anything, because near that block, underneath the bridge, we've handed out supplies to people, and there was
Yeah.
nobody there during the event. So, I am betting you that they chase these people out because they don't see them as human beings, and they're not actually doing anything, and all they care about is making themselves feel better by putting Trump in a chicken costume and just like I said, I didn't even wanna go, but the Palestinian organization was there, and I thought, I'll show support because, like, I care about that, and yet the Palestinian organization was there with another Zionist organization, so, like, even that was basically ineffective because. Like, they didn't really say much, they didn't really do much, they're still organizing with Democrats, like, they're not actually diverting their attention away from the system, diverting their power, their organizing power, their money, any of it away from the system, they're just trying to prop it up and, like, being, like, anti-communist and anti-Trump and then saying Trump's a communist, and it just none of it makes sense, there's no, there's no actual critical thinking going on in these people's heads. They're scrolling on Facebook Reels, and that's where they get their politics from. That's where they get their hate from. That's why they think it's fine to kill and, like, attempt to murder Russian Ukrainian people. Like, Jody Miller, the organizer of the event, she or Joni Miller, she straight up has like a I support Ukraine like thing in her bio on Facebook, and I'm like, well, you have somebody that is Ukrainian. My family's in Kiev, my family is in Crimea, and yet you don't care to listen to them. You care to listen to the American empire and NATO, and America's only there to get the minerals that are in the Donbass region. So, like, you say you're anti-oligarchy, you're anti-corruption, you're anti-fascism, but you're pro-United States. The entire event, they were trying to, like, get as many American flags as they could because they didn't want to be anti-American, and I'm like, well, you can't not be anti-American if you want real change. The American empire is a scourge upon this earth. It is destroying the earth. The bombs that we're providing are accelerating climate change. Like the destruction of the American empire has to be our primary goal because until we do that, we can't really change anything else. You can't reform it. You can't reform an imperial empire into fixing itself. Lenin understood that. We understand that. We get that, like, this empire isn't just going to change. That's why they didn't organize within the state duma during before 1917. That's why they specifically did not go to the state duma. That's why they were doing and building that dual power that was separate, completely separate from the imperial system. But these people are just like bootlickers essentially. They're bootlickers who want to feel good about what they're doing, and they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything. They're just supporting the United States.
Yeah. There's this tweet that I want to end with, and this actually is very apropos. Shout out to one of the members in my mutual aid org, my one of the fellow members of the mutual aid org I'm part of. She sent
The
this
freedom fighters or the food freedom fighters?
Freedom Feeders.
Yeah, freedom
He's
fighters.
part of the Orlando RBN mutual aid chapter.
Cool.
Uh, but this was from my commie friend and homie Sabiha. She sent this, and this person Iman Abdullah Abdulhadi says it is worse than Gaza being starved and destroyed and no one cares. It's that hundreds of millions do care and are powerless to stop it. We need a world where that can never happen, where the masses actually have political power. So basically, that's exactly the what we have going on right now is that there are many people who care. It's just the political power doesn't exist. It's not that it's weakened. It just doesn't exist.
We don't have any say in
And
what's happening.
yeah, yeah,
Like we don't, it's all the money, it's all the billionaires, and it's all the Democrats and the Republicans who are the ones that have a say in it, and they're, the powerful elite, and it just and it's crazy that, like, people are straight up just bootlicking them like crazy and thinking that, like, the Democrats are the better option. They're just they just want female drone pilots. They just want, like, a rainbow flag on the bomb.
yeah,
That's the only difference between the Democrats and the Republicans. the only difference is that they want more female drone pilots, that they want rainbow flags on their bombs, that they want a trans person, like, flying the bomber, that's killing, Palestinians, and, like, that's the only difference between them that I can see. Otherwise, they're the exact same organization, they're the exact same people, they want the exact same thing, you know?
Definitely, definitely. So, look, my last question regarding the subject is: are you okay?
I'm very lucky, I have a wonderful comrade who I live with, and she's been my rock. I have come into her room many times at like midnight, 1 a.m., crying about this, crying about what happened, feeling essentially worthless that like people don't want me alive because of where my family's from.
Well,
Um,
I
and
know about that.
that's yeah, I mean, yeah, like, and it just, it took a while for me to like come to terms with it, but I'm very, very glad that I have people that are supporting me here and that are here for me, like, in the middle of the night when I'm, like, scared and, struggling and just, like, wanting to cry and just telling me that it's okay, that they're here for me, that they're gonna be by my side and that they support me, and, I'm very lucky in that sense.
Yeah. Thank you very much for giving us, what the account of what happened to you, and
Thank you for
we
giving me
are
a platform. Nobody
definitely,
else has. Nobody's even answered my emails to get the footage. It just
yeah, yeah. Well, we have to stand together and fight against the system as much as we possibly can.
yeah,
Of course, I put the link to the website as well as the
yeah.
Cash App so that they can give any assistance to the work that you're doing out there in
I
Iowa.
I would really appreciate that because 'cause we're trying to get duffel bags and sleeping bags right now, and those get kinda expensive.
Yeah,
Even working in healthcare, I can't really afford all of this on my own.
yeah, of
Yeah,
course. So thank you very much for that. Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further, so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/Jaybefaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.